Besides introducing Refoel Huisman, who needs no introduction, I also want to plug that not only speaking tonight, Refoel's actually starting a new series that might not be of interest necessarily to this crowd, but might be of interest to your friends, coworkers, clients. Rocks for Jocks, tech for the non-technical. The people in this group are very gifted and blessed in that they understand emerging technologies and the changing landscape, but the people you work with don't, and it might drive them nuts. They need to know enough to be able to work with you and run their businesses. It would be a tremendous chesed if you shared this event. It might even be a great conversation starter, or a, hey, I haven't spoken to you in a long time, but you should probably check this out. You'll make the judgment by the end of the evening whether a file is indeed worth listening to and coming out to hear. So without further ado, Refoel, you should know, is not just a stalwart of the community. He's been a real a pusher, a spearhead of all of these events from the very get-go. And it's very exciting to hear him present tonight.
Thank you, David. So I want to welcome everyone. So Rabbi Pardo asked me to share a few, to a word. So I have actually a very interesting word, the same Rabbi Wari Jacobson, that's both very fitting with the time we're in currently, and it's also very beneficial in terms of the talk itself. So when the Meraglim came to Eretz Yisrael, they started out, investigating what was going on, and on their return, they started out by singing its praises, but then they concluded with the giants, the Bnei Anak, and they state that we seem like grasshoppers in their eyes. And as a result of that, the Bnei Yisrael panicked and wanted to either die in the Midbar or return to Eretz Yisrael. So this panic that was happening for Bnei Yisrael, this happened on Tisha B'Av. Says the Gemara in Tanis, Chof Tesamut Beis, but Tisha B'Av Nigzar Avashenus Lo Yichnos LeEretz. On Tisha B'Av, it was decreed on our forefathers that they would not go into Eretz Yisrael. Omer Lehem HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Hashem said to them, Atem b'chisem b'chiyas achinam, you cried a cry in vain, and v'ani kaveh lachem b'chiyas l'doros, and I'm conveying a cry for you for all your generations. Now, if we think about this, this seems like a fairly extreme outcome. How's the pain for generation, how's the cry for generations a measured response for their in vain tears? And the answer, of course, is that this is not a punishment. Hashem gave us a prediction. Hashem explained to us the tragic ramifications of our behavior. The crying in vain itself is what caused the cry for generations. So why did the Bnei Yisrael cry? They just went through all the Nisim. They got the Torah on the Har Sinai, and now they're doubting Hashem's ability to overcome the giants. So where did the cry come from? So this shows the power of fear. The Yidden were unable to do what would make sense because of their fear. Their inability to realize that Hashem was with them, and Hashem gave them the power to perform their challenges, is what caused them to feel in that moment. The Meraglim caused the Bnei Yisrael to perceive themselves as hopeless, small, futile grasshoppers. And because of that, they came to believe that everyone else looks at them as mere grasshoppers. When you think you're weak, you become weak. And then everyone else will also consider you weak. In order to not fall into that trap, we have to remember, and we have to make sure that in every situation we're in, that we realize that we are empowered by Hashem. Hashem is the one that gives us the power to do whatever it is that we want to do. And he gives us the ability to turn darkness into light. And if we're able to be here for each other, one another, and use our individual strengths and beliefs to help each other, we can turn this Golos into Gula. And with that, we'll merit to bring the Gula Shlema, and turn this Tisha B'Av into a day of Sosainu Simcha. Now, if you think about it, your mind is an incredibly powerful tool. And the fear, the same fear that caused the Bnei Yisrael to fail in that point, that's something that you could turn it around. If you have belief in yourself, you're able to change situations for the good. Now, who am I? So I did already get an introduction by Pardo, but I'm going to introduce myself again anyways. So I'm Refoel Huisman. I'm the CTO at Overpass. At Overpass, we remove barriers for our clients and agents with remote working. Our vision is to help people. So we firmly believe that companies that believe in their vision, they have their culture shown throughout their products. A lot of what you will hear today is part of Overpass's culture. I also do coaching. I coach technologists. My focus in coaching is to empower you to find the success within yourself. And again, that's what we were talking about in the Word, that you have everything in yourself to succeed. What you need to do is get into the right mindset and have the right beliefs to actually create a success for yourself. 2 tracks that I focus on a lot are getting the promotion you deserve, not leaving your career path up to game of change, and how to make yourself noticeable and get your first job. How to make that entrance in a way that employers just have to hire you. Now, as a prelude to the actual talk, I will be focusing mostly on the perspective of someone working for a company, having a boss, having a manager. But these ideas, these thoughts can apply to any situation that you might find yourself into, where you have to change the perception of someone of what you do. If you have any questions during our conversation, please post them in the chat. I will also be asking some questions during the conversation, which I would like for people to get involved in. So please, if you have an answer to any of the questions I ask, please unmute yourself and answer. And very important, I will be mentioning different approaches and different solutions and different ways you can solve this idea of the perception that other people have for you. But don't take my word for it. Research it, question it, and try different things, experiment with it. There are often many different approaches, and you hear in many different talks from people, you hear about different ways to accomplish things. And keep in mind, there's many different approaches to reach the same goal. And it's up to you to find what works for you. My goal tonight here is to open your mind to the opportunities that you have, if you're willing to explore what you can do with having the right mindset. Now, most of us care about career progression. Career progression is not just your job title, your financial success. It's also about who you are and what you're accomplishing. It's very nice to have a nice job and a great title and good income, but more so, you want to feel accomplished and you want to feel valued. What I would like to gift you tonight is to have a clear vision on how to improve your employer's perception of what you do, which is one of the most important ingredients to being successful at work, and is almost always what career progression is tied to. Now, I hear very often from people, if I want to climb the ranks, if I want to get that raise, the easiest way to do so is by getting a new job. I would like to ask you, why is that? If you'd like to answer, you please unmute yourself and then.
Yeah. I would say because you get to start again. So starting from a new slate, they don't have all possible negative associations that they might have that they know because they already know you. So you get to like start again.
Great, thanks for sharing. Anyone else have any other thoughts?
I'd say maybe because they take you for granted at your current place, whereas the new place might be see a lot of your strengths in the more clearly.
Great, that's a great thought. Any other thoughts?
Maybe because when you're outselling yourself, you end up like selling a better version of yourself and you make more money that way.
That's actually a very, very good point. And what happens is that during the interview process, you're in the mindset of selling yourself more than in the other times. Like Achel said before, it's easy to start over. It's easy to get it fresh start. And I believe it was Tree that said about the, not having any baggage. And all these things are true. And it's really important that all these different ideas, and I'm sure that many others on this talk tonight have different various ideas of why it is so. Most of them are going to go back to the mindset that you have, because change is something that you cause with your mind. Now, we'll get back to this towards the end of the call again. Thank you all for sharing. So the reason I titled this talk, Are You Done Being a Code Monkey? Is because in most organizations, be it their direct or indirect manager or wherever it is in the organization, there's often people in the chain of command that might not have the right perception of what it is that you do. It might even be a colleague, it might be your direct manager. And as a result of that, they might not value you as much as they should. Even when you have a technologist as a manager, this is often still an issue. So being a code monkey in this context means that you're not valued for what you really bring to the table. Rather, you're valued for the code you can put out. And at many times it might feel like you're some kind of transpiler, transpiling business requirements into working tools. But as everyone knows, we do so much more than just transpiling. Now, how do you think your boss or manager currently perceives what you do?
Probably like the way when you started at that company, because you sold yourself then. It's very hard to sell yourself again.
Great. So you sold yourself initially, and that's where you're stuck at. Thanks for sharing that. Any other thoughts?
I guess for me, it's more like the problem solver. Like, hey, we're dealing with this company problem or this business logic problem. How do we address it?
Okay, great. Any other thoughts? Okay, so those are both very good points. And again, we'll get back to these points shortly. So Ayeka, where are you? Before you can really truly understand how to be best perceived by your boss, coworkers, and others, you first have to understand who you are yourself. What do you bring to the table? And most important, what are the needs of your company? So when people tell you what you do for a living, what do you tell them?
Computer stuff.
Computer stuff, okay. What else?
Engineering.
Sorry?
Software engineering.
Okay. Anything else?
Typing lots of words into the computer.
Okay. Any others?
It depends who's asking. If it's an interview, you say you try to make a big impact.
Okay. And if it's your manager or boss?
Yeah, I think you're constantly being interviewed by your manager or boss.
Okay. Great. So what I generally hear are all kind of different ways of phrasing this. I'm a programmer, I'm a developer, I build app, I build websites, I'm software engineers, I type words into the computer. That's actually a fairly unique one. And so, like you said, making an impact. Actually, making impact is one of the closest ones I hear. What I often miss is I'm a problem solver. And it's extremely important to realize what it is that you are and why the company hired you. The company did not hire you to type letters or words into the computer. They didn't even hire you to code. At least most companies don't hire you specifically to code. They hire you to solve problems for them. It might be a new website they want to build. It might be a complex algorithm, but they're looking for problem solving. Now, take a moment and think about the following. What are your skills? Not just the tech skills. What skills do you have and what could you be using? Think about what could be bringing value to your workplace. Also think about how have you been successful in the past and how can it help you in the company? What are your challenges? Is there anything you can improve on? Why did the company hire you? What's the company vision? And what are the current challenges? Now, that's a lot to think about, and I wouldn't ask you to think about it right now, but when you have time, go somewhere relaxing and actually sit down and really think about these things. Skills, why did they hire you, and what do you bring to the company? And then afterwards, it's really important to get a clear picture on how do you define success. So when you have that clear picture of how you define success, combined with your skills and what the company needs for you, what would it do for you? Why does it matter to know all this? So what happens is that when the opportunity arises to do something impactful, by knowing where you are, by knowing what your strengths and weaknesses are, and by knowing what the company's vision and goal and needs are, you'll be extremely well positioned to not just recognize the opportunity, but to also create success for your team and company. And what better way to show value to your boss than by having an impact on the team's success? Now, speaking about being impactful, so to make an impact, you have to solve issues or implement solutions that matter to the company. I often see that people are stuck working on things that are not necessarily impactful. And the reason for that is because they might not have in mind what it is the company really needs. What is the task that you set out to accomplish really about? So if you really figure out what it is, you can properly bring the company closer to its goal, make your team more efficient at what it does. So what are different ways to be impactful? So experience and skill does not equal impact. Just because you have experience, just because you have the skills to know how to do something, doesn't mean you're going to create the impact. But what happens is you have to really have the right focus to do the right thing, something that really matters to the company, something that's really going to create success. So what can you do to ensure you have that right focus? I'm not going to actually talk about it because there's many books, videos, and talks about this subject, and it will be a waste of time to talk about it right now. There's many much smarter people than me that are talking about this and have amazing solutions. So I would suggest that you research this. But I do want to give you one approach that approach is extremely simple to implement, and by doing it, you can create focus for yourself. That's at the beginning of each day. Know what it is that you would like to accomplish that day. And at the end of the day, confirm that you were able to accomplish what you set out to accomplish. That's it. By doing that, you can create focus for yourself. Another thing that you can do to make an impact is find your niche. What can you do for the team that no one else can? And it doesn't mean that you're the only one that has a skill. That could also mean that you're the only one positioned or the only one that has the time to do it. But find things that you can be there for the team that no one else can. And the way you can find your niche is by evaluating your passion and skills against the company's or the team's need. And this could even be an as of yet unidentified need, as long as the need is genuine. This is not something you want to rush or force. It's fine if it takes you some retrospective to get to finding this niche, but find your niche. And the next element is be an influencer. When you're an influencer, you have the ability to impact the company beyond yourself. Now, if you want to be an influencer, it's extremely important that you listen before you try to persuade anyone of anything. And keep in mind, your body language tells it all. If you're focused, if you're engaged, if you're interested, your body will tell it. If you're genuinely trying to help someone, your body will tell that to other people. And remember, you cannot change other people. If you want to improve things or fix things in the workplace, the only way to do so is by changing yourself. And by changing yourself, you can become an influencer and actually change the things you want to change. And that can have a tremendous impact on the company, on how things are done, and on what the accomplishments are. And the last element is remove distractions. So manage your time, know what it is that you want to accomplish, and set goals for yourself. So those are different ways you can be impactful. Now, the next element is you have to communicate. You have to communicate to everyone around you what it is that you do, for them to perceive you in the right way. you have to really be curious. Now, what's the importance of being curious? When you ask questions, it shows that you listened. It shows interest. It shows that you care. And don't wait to ask questions. If there's a question, if something is not clear, interrupt, obviously in a way that's appropriate for the moment. So if somebody's in the middle of talking, you can indicate with your hand that there's something you have to be clarified in. If someone is giving a public speech, obviously don't interrupt them, because that would be very impolite, but then right after the talk, or if somebody is giving a presentation in your company, don't interrupt, but right after the talk, raise your hand, be proactive, ask that question, and really show a genuine curiosity about what it is that people present, what it is that people are trying to accomplish. The next element is to engage. When you're engaged, it's one of the most powerful ways to communicate what it is that you do. So for example, when you're discussing a task or project, if you discuss options, don't just give the options, explain your thought process. And very importantly, get into the mindset to hear constructive feedback. When you are able to open the communication channels this way, you'll get a lot of feedback and a lot of very valuable feedback. And what is really, really, really important is that when you're engaging with someone, you're engaging with them with the purpose of figuring out how you can support the outcome that they're seeking. When you are engaging in order to help them, they're going to feel that. Now, when you're engaged in solving the problem, like I said before, this is a two-way channel. You're creating clarity both ways. You create clarity by figuring out if you understood it correctly, but you're also signaling to the recipient, to the person you're engaging with, that you understood it correctly. You get early feedback if it wasn't the right approach, or if there's maybe more important things to give back. And most importantly, you're showing them that you're not just doing this task for them as a job. I'm not just doing this because I have to do it, but you're here to help them solve the problem. Another thing you can do as part of engaging is speak to the challenges that they are there. Don't hide them. You don't have to embellish them. You don't have to boast about them, but don't hide the truth either. It's okay for your boss or managers to know that you had a challenge. It might sometimes sound counterproductive, right? Because, oh, now he knows that I had a hard time with it. But if you think about it, he will realize that not only are you really willing to work and to overcome your challenges, but that you're someone that he can rely on to communicate the challenges and to figure out what ways are there to solve them. I've seen many times myself that people wanted to solve issues themselves. They were so focused on being the one solving the problem that they spent so much time on solving the problem when this was a side problem, or this was something that was really not important to us as a company. And that, would not give me value. So I wouldn't appreciate the effort they put into it. So by communicating challenges, you give your boss or manager the opportunity to readjust the focus, to readjust the task. You give them the ability to be more productive. And again, people will realize what it is what you're really doing it because you're engaged with them. So you're silently telling them what it is that you're really doing them. And you show them that you're solving problems, not just writing code. Now, another thing is to be helpful. Ask others on your team how you can help them. Team players are those that are worthy of promotion, especially if by helping others, you can show your versatility. Another thing is, and where you can be very helpful, is give credit where it's due. For example, I could not have made Nextdoor happen without David and without the rest of the crew. I just wouldn't have been able to do it. And when you give credit to others, others are going to be more ready to attribute success to you whenever that credit is due. Actually, last time when we spoke about the interview panel, somebody mentioned that they extremely dislike it when they see something on somebody's resume and then they find out that they only did part of that, right? It's the opposite approach, but the same idea. They took credit for something that didn't belong to them, and now when it comes back, it came back extra hard. And the same comes back what goes in the positive. If people know they can rely on you to give out credit when it's credit is due to others, they know that whatever credit you take really belongs to you. Now, it's really important in the workplace to build relationships. Don't just build relationships people that you think are gonna be useful to you, and don't just build relationships with people in your direct surroundings. Look around you, look around the whole spectrum. And a very good way to build a genuine relationship is by helping others and being there for them. And in the communication section, last but not least, be proactive. Take the lead in communication. Don't wait for others to come to you. Go to them. And that will show that you're on top of things, that you really care about it. Now, in the end, no matter what your boss or manager thinks about you, you are the one that owns your career. You have to own it. So how do you really own your career? So the first thing is you have to have very clear goals in mind. Where do you want to be in 1 month, a year from now, in 5 years? What would you want to be able to have accomplished? Be clear with your financial goals. Very often people are uncomfortable being clear about their financial goals. But it's important that you have a clear picture of what you feel is right for you to make. And if you're looking for a promotion or raise, think about what are some reasons your boss would give you a raise or promotion, and how can you get there, and set those goals for yourself. And yes, if you have the right opportunity, you can even ask your boss straight out, I'm looking to get X. What would it take for me to get there? And set those goals and get there. Now, we try to pack a lot of value in a very short time span. And there are many other ways that were not mentioned tonight. The importance is that you create stepping stones for yourself. Don't try to fix everything at once. Pick some items that you feel you can really be successful with and commit to them. When you commit to it, you dedicate yourself to actually do it. The commitment is something extremely strong, and verbalize the commitment to yourself out loud. Don't just have it in your head from, oh, I would like to do this. Actually tell yourself what it is that you would like to do and what the value it is that you're going to get out of that. Don't take a big leap, because if you take a very big leap, you can end up stumbling. Yes, you might be able to skip some steps, but more often than not, people stumble when they try to do too much at once. The key to success is lots of stepping stones. Be every day just a bit better than the day before. Growth happens at the edge of your comfort zone. Don't stay in the middle of it. Go to the edge of it and be prepared to change. Now, if you have any further questions or like to talk with me about anything that we discussed during this talk, you can contact me by email, by Slack, or on LinkedIn. On Slack, I'm from the Software Developers channel, I'm on the From Techs Slack channel, and I'm also on the Creative Tal. I'm very responsive on LinkedIn. And as a gift to those that participated in tonight's talk, I would like to give a free 30-minute coaching session in order to help you further explore how you can be successful in your career. And you can schedule a meeting with my Calendly link, which you see on the screen, and I will also post it in the chat. And that's it.
Oh, thank you very much. It was very, very insightful.
Okay. David, we don't hear you. You're muted.
Looks like you have your first question already in the chat from Yitz. How do you find the first stepping stones when there seems to be a lot to cover? Also, Yitz, if you want to unmute yourself, you could ask it.
Okay, so how do you find the first stepping stone? So that's something that is very personalized. What I would say is start with the process of figuring out what your skills are and what value you can bring. And then as the next step, figure out what it is your company needs from you. What value can you bring to your company? I think once you have that clearly pictured, it's going to be much easier for you to determine what the next stepping stone is. And if you're unsure, you can experiment with it. Try things out. most of the time when you're willing to experiment and engage with other people, you'll start very quickly seeing the feedback from people. And you can even be open with people about it. You can tell them, hey, I would like to change X. Can you give me some feedback about it? Communication is extremely powerful, but I would like to go back to the first item I mentioned, and that's the mindset. If you had to pick one thing to change your mindset. Once your mindset is in the right direction, once your mind is there to generally helping others and to generally support other people in their tasks and in their needs, you're automatically going to see results from that. Okay, so someone asked, is there a way to alter the persona you have already cemented in your workplace? It's a great question. I would like to rephrase that question a little bit. Is it possible to alter the persona that you have cemented in your own mind? Because that's really what it's all about. When you have the mindset to generally be there for other people, to really be engaged, to support other people in their success, it's automatically going to change your persona in your workplace. I would even venture to say that your persona in your workplace is less cemented than the persona you have in your own mindset. Any other questions?
Yeah, is there a specific order you have to have? You have to do these things, like, do you have to first cement yourself in your own mind before you start helping people? Because it's very hard to know where you're at and share that before you actually feel comfortable with what you know.
Great question. I would say in order to answer that, what you really have to do is get in your own mind. A lot of this ends up being mindful about what's going around you and being mindful about yourself, realizing in the moment where you're at. So in order to really figure out where you're currently at, try to be mindful next time you get involved in a task. Try to think about why you're doing this task. Be mindful about it, and you will very quickly see where you're holding. Personally, I find meditation to be an extremely powerful way if you have to really think about these things, to sit down in a relaxing place to meditate about it. There's many kosher approaches to meditation, and I would definitely suggest checking them out. But I would definitely say that the first step is to be mindful about what's going on for you in the moment as it happens. And that might take a few tries. It might take a few tries before you realize it and before you stop yourself. And in order to assist yourself with doing that, what you can do is before you go to work or before you go into a meeting, tell yourself, I'm going to be mindful about thinking about why I'm helping someone. I'm going to be mindful about why I'm asking questions or how I'm asking questions. If you state that to yourself before you go into a meeting or before you start your workday, you help yourself to be there in the moment when it's needed.